wasn't sure there was going to be a sparring match agreement that we'll spar for a while. I wasn't sure. I was honest about it. That's why he said it's going to go rounds. I wasn't sure if there was an understanding that, we'll play a little bit and then we'll get a little more and, whatever. So that was part of it.
Has had double jaw surgery, 4 plates, 8 screws in his body. Is just kind of breezing past that like it's no big deal. But I'm looking further into this because that's no easy surgery, and I'm starting to ask the question, is this the beginning of the end of Jake Paul's boxing career?
As his brother, I was just shocked. I'm in the hospital with the guy, and he's like, yo, can you make this TikTok? Can you film this for me? He's like laughing and having a good time.
The agenda against Anthony Joshua, because it feels to me like that fight, I before the fight, I was refusing to accept the principle that this fight could be scripted.
The boxing world has exploded after Anthony Joshua's fight with Jake Paul, with fans and critics alike claiming the bout should never have happened. Many are calling it dangerous, even reckless, after Jake reportedly suffered severe injuries, including a broken jaw that required surgery and metal screws. Experts argue that Joshua's raw power and elite-level aggression crossed the line of safe competition. Shocking damage left the boxing community debating fighter safety, matchmaking, and whether this fight should have been allowed at all.
And you'll be right. You can also say it's smart for a guy of Jake's size and understanding that AJ is a fucking monster. It's also smart to fight that way. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing. It was not.
Analysts Brian Campbell and Shaka Majwi broke down Jake Paul's fight against Anthony Joshua, focusing on strategy and the brutal physical toll it took on Paul. They explained how Joshua's power caused serious damage, ultimately leading to jaw surgery. To survive, Jake relied heavily on movement, constantly circling the ring to avoid being trapped on the ropes. While the approach lacked aggression, it allowed him to last longer than expected. Analysts highlighted how defensive awareness helped Jake reduce some damage, but Joshua's overwhelming strength still left visible injuries, exposing the dangers of mismatched high-profile fights.
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a 2-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age, to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so, because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight, an elite boxer.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping delivered a brutal reaction to Jake Paul's loss against Anthony Joshua, calling it a masterclass in professional boxing. He explained how Paul was completely outmatched by Joshua's size, power, and technical precision. AJ's combinations and uppercuts left Jake with no room to escape, exposing major gaps in his defense. Bisping stated that the broken jaw and punishment were the result of facing a true elite heavyweight for the first time. He concluded that the fight proved the massive gap between world-class boxers and celebrity crossover fighters.
Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? Yeah, a lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing. It's not MMA, as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. Round, I think it was the 4th round, he got dropped twice. In the 5th round, he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, then a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough?
Following the blockbuster fight streamed globally on Netflix, reports revealed that Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul each earned around $92 million, making it one of the highest-paying boxing events ever. However, Joshua's massive payday came with a harsh reality. As a UK resident fighting in the United States, AJ is subject to both US and UK taxes, potentially losing up to $66 million. Meanwhile, Jake Paul, as a US-based fighter, avoids the extra tax burden, allowing him to keep a larger share despite losing. The situation highlights how headline earnings rarely reflect what fighters actually take home.
Has to pay, as you see here, a whopping $43 million. $43 million of his $92 million purse. That means Anthony Joshua was left with $49 million. Right? Now, he also has to pay, I believe, 10% of that to his promoter, Matchroom CEO and promoter Eddie.
Dominic Angle offered a brutally honest breakdown of Jake Paul's fight against Anthony Joshua, explaining that Jake's main strategy was survival rather than trading punches. Constantly moving, he made it difficult for Joshua to trap him. Angle noted that while Jake absorbed a heavy right hand, he showed toughness by staying composed. He also pointed out that Joshua never needed to go full intensity, as Jake wasn't a threat over 8 rounds. According to Angle, elite fighters often perform at the level of their opponent, controlling fights without unnecessary risk.
Fight. And AJ is not the best at closing people off, and it's hard chasing somebody down who don't want to engage. And then he tagged him every now and again. So
does it look bad on him? Because there's one right hook that he took was a serious shot. But obviously, he didn't flinch from it. But the fact
not really, because you'll take into consideration that you can get. There will be there'll be no way. Well, Anthony Joshua thought, if he hits me, there's a possibility he's going to hurt me. I felt a couple of shots early on in the fight. There's no way Jake Paul at the level he's at, and who he's boxed and what he's done, that he's, you know, and it's like AJ, like you say, he's got to have completely gone and be punch drunk for Jake Paul to beat him. After the last fight against Dubois, people think, well, his jaw's gone there, he can't take a shot. Of course he can take a shot. And it's weighing up the opposition, and he weighed up the opposition. And he's not going to be training like he trained for Usyk or for the big fights. He won't do that because they can't get motivated enough to do it. They'll do enough to do the rounds. What was it, an 8-rounder?
Yeah.
So, same again. So he did enough. He never looked in any trouble. It didn't look great, you know, but Tyson Fury didn't look great against Ngannou, did he? But who did he box after Ngannou?
Was it Usyk?
Exactly. Yeah. But you would have never thought, looking at the performance against Ngannou with Tyson, you would never thought that he put in the performance he did against Usyk.
So you think it's more of a case of you kind of, no matter how good you are and how much you train, if the opposition isn't great, you sometimes...
Sometimes you're going to box at the level of the opponent because the opponent makes you fight at that level.
That's quite a fair.
The fight highlighted the brutal reality of boxing, proving that courage and hype alone cannot prepare someone for elite competition. The biggest shock came after the bout, when Jake Paul's mother publicly threatened Anthony Joshua and promoter Eddie Hearn. Furious, she accused them of allowing the fight to continue despite Jake taking heavy punishment. She claimed the bout should have been stopped sooner to protect her son. While many fans found her reaction extreme, others understood her emotions, pointing to the serious risks Jake faced under Joshua's devastating power.
Eddie Hearn, for instance. Yeah.
Why? Why Eddie Hearn?
Because I don't like his smug face.
You don't like his smug face?
No. Literally thinks he's better than everybody in the world.
Shit-eating grin. I said the exact bro.
Jake's over there, like, you know, struggling, and he's sitting over there smiling like the cat who swallowed the canary. Guess what? Did he fucking get in the ring?
Do you think he was happy with what happened to Jake?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, my God.
Now, this is coming from a mother, too, guys. So I just want y'all to understand it. This is a mom. But at the end of the day, it's his job to laugh. Because, hell, I was laughing at Jake Paul. I can't even lie. I'm not a big Jake Paul fan. But, you know, part of the process. We got to report on this stuff. But Mama Paul, hella mad.
God, and that's sickening to me. It's sick. I don't like it. Even Anthony Joshua had some class and, you know, apologized to me.
Did he really?
Yeah. He worked his way through the crowd and came up to me and said, Mom, just know it's just boxing.
He says,